Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again. Onside Cook, brought to you by OnsideCook.com. Tim Miller, Joey McDaddy, Joe McCann's here, back once again. And hopefully, we don't have any technical difficulties. Hopefully, the lights stay on for our show. I mean, only how many million people watching this big Super Bowl? We're worried about MetLife Stadium and the cold weather we're going to have in New York. But the electricity goes out for 34 minutes in New Orleans. Maybe the most memorable part for me from this year's Super Bowl. What would have been your most memorable part?
Well, probably when a 5-year-old was going to kick me in the face. Oh, during the actual game.
Yeah, not everybody saw it, even though we should have put that on OnsideClick.com.
My most memorable part of the game, I feel, probably has to be the no call on the final 49ers play of the game in the end zone, where you could have either called pass interference or holding. I think for me, that's really when I think of this Super Bowl, in the future, years down the road, all I'm going to think about is that no call at the end of the game.
Yeah, that goes two ways for me. I felt the same way as soon as it happened, and after a little bit of, feeding it into myself, thinking about it a little bit more, I would have been angry if the referees didn't make that call, because obviously I was mad. But if the referees made that call, we go let them play, and you hate to see a Super Bowl, a big game of that atmosphere, playoff game whatsoever. You don't like to see it end in that fashion. So for me, it was 50-50. I'm going to remember that call was blown, but I probably would have remembered that call wasn't made as well. If that call, they let that play happen, they make that call on the field. If that happens, I would remember that as well.
Yeah, and another thing I'm going to really remember about this game in the future definitely is Beyonce. Mm-hmm. I don't think I will ever forget the moves Beyonce put on up on that stage. That is forever burned into my memory.
Yeah, a lot of sexuality was questioned during the Sunday halftime performance. Thanks to Beyonce, I thought it was terrific. She looked extraordinary. She looked phenomenal. Good performance. You think of the ones of the past where you've had some of the, the laid back, rockers, a couple big performances. I remember the big one with Aerosmith and Britney Spears and Nelly and all those people coming out. The Stones had a good performance. I remember the Tom Petty,
Justin Timberlake.
And this was a good one. This is more memorable for me. It's somebody from our era. I know you're not big into that genre of music, but Beyonce, with Jay-Z and that atmosphere is something that I've grown up with, something I have enjoyed, and I thought she did a great job, and she looked fantastic doing it.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% there.
The one thing I want to point out as well is, you remember that from the Super Bowl, I'm going to throw a penalty flag out there on one greatest receiver of all time in Randy Moss. This is a guy who made that outrageous statement saying he was the greatest receiver of all time. Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver of all time, was a 49er legend. It's a guy who had the alligator arms, wasn't blocking, just, didn't even go through the motions for the 49ers in the biggest game of the year. You're about to win a Super Bowl, and you didn't even show up after making a ridiculous statement.
Yeah, I agree with you there. When you look at statements like that, I think there's two different types of people. There's the people like Randy Moss who make the statement saying that they're the best he said all the time, best at what he does, and he had no backup. He didn't back it up at all. He didn't prove it at all. Then you got the Joe Flacco, who said he's the best quarterback. And he backed it up. He played a phenomenal season. He played one of the best postseasons in quarterback history. When you look at numbers, I feel, no interceptions, I think 11 touchdowns. Put up unbelievable numbers, and he backed it up. He's someone who made that statement that he was the best, and he backed it up. Whereas someone like Randy Moss talks about being the best, and then doesn't put out 100% effort, which definitely really lowers his overall image.
Yeah, for where he was on the charts, we talked about it. Maybe he's on the same level as a T.O., not quite at that Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin type of level. Chris Carter, absolutely. Congratulations to Chris Carter going into the Hall of Fame this year.
Tip my cap to you.
Finally, overdue. Warren Sapp going on this year as well. Great class. Jonathan Ogden, great class for the Football Hall of Fame this year.
Where's Michael Strahan now?
But New York next season, MetLife, maybe that's the turn for Michael Strahan to go in. I know, I'm with you. I thought he would have went in before Warren Sapp, but we will see Michael Strahan in that Hall of Fame before the time is done.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought Flacco. It's the next direction that I was going into. This guy who did back up a guy that I wasn't so high on. You had, you thought he was at a good level where he could overpass and become one of those good quarterbacks. I didn't see it, but through these playoffs, 11 touchdowns, like you said, no interceptions, 3 touchdowns, had the big plays in the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. This guy really stepped up, in my opinion. He's beyond the level of the Tony Romos and the Phillip Rivers that I once thought he was at. I think he's excelled to maybe, just beyond an Eli Manning, just beyond a Ben Roethlisberger,
Beyond Eli Manning?
not above them, beyond them, just outside of their realm. He's like a level by himself. He goes from the Romos, the Rivers, the Matt Ryans, to Flacco, to the elite guys, in my opinion. I can't call him elite yet, but he seems to be in that level above the supposedly elite quarterbacks that can't get the job done on the field. He has excelled and won a Super Bowl. He's above them now.
I think he's in that, I'm going to say Ben Roethlisberger.
Mhm.
You look, because when you think elites, you don't necessarily put Roethlisberger in there. And he's a very effective quarterback, but he doesn't put up the greatest numbers. I think when you talk elite, you've got the Tom Brady, the Peyton Manning, the Drew Brees, the Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And I think and the Eli Manning. I am going to put Eli Manning in there. Then I think you've got that's the elite. Then I think you've got the Joe Flacco and Ben Roethlisberger, and then you've got the Tony Romos, the Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
He's just stepping into that level. I don't know if he's quite there yet, but he's stepping into that level. I think Flacco and Roethlisberger are about the same level, just behind those 5 elite guys.
Yeah, I still give Roethlisberger a little bit of a nod higher because of the 2 Super Bowl rings.
Super Bowls.
The thing about that, though, easily last year Flacco could have had that. Missed field goal, didn't allow them to make it to the Super Bowl. He could have been a 2-time Super Bowl winner this year. He had that opportunity. It was screwed up. Billy Cundiff missed the kick, didn't get the job done. Not Flacco's fault. But I still think those 2 Super Bowl titles for Roethlisberger and Eli elevate them a little bit higher. But the inconsistency is more there for Eli and Roethlisberger than Joe Flacco. I have to agree. His first few years in the season, he's been in the playoffs every year. He's finally got to the Super Bowl.
He's won a playoff game in 5 consecutive seasons to start his career. He's the only quarterback ever to do that in NFL history, which I think is a very impressive feat.
Absolutely. And look at it this way. 2 quarterbacks from Delaware. Delaware has the most starting quarterbacks in the history of the Super Bowl with 2 of them. That's unbelievable. Joe Flacco went to the Super Bowl. Of course, Rich Gannon went in there and lost it to Tampa Bay a few years ago. Well, over a decade ago, a few years ago now. But not quite a decade. What was that, the late 90s, 97, 98, somewhere in that realm?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. It's just really strange. No USC, no Stanford, no Ohio State. Delaware is the peak of the NFL quarterback Super Bowl champions. It's unbelievable to me. But where do you think Joe Flacco lies? Let us know. There's various different ways. Let us know your favorite parts of the Super Bowl. On Twitter, @OnsideCook, OnsideCook.com, join us in the forums, or Facebook.com/OnsideCook. Another big part of the Super Bowl, of course, was the commercials. A lot of people talk about that and Beyonce more than the game itself. What was your favorite commercial from Sunday?
Oh, my favorite commercial. I think my favorite commercial was honestly the one where the guy bought the goat, and he took the goat home, and the goat just ate Doritos. And the guy's like, "This is awesome! I'm sharing Doritos with a goat," and they're eating, and it shows 12 bags later that the goat's still eating. 47 bags later, guy's trying to sleep. Goat's still eating. He's building something, some model something. Goat's still eating Doritos. Chomp, 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 crunch, crunch, crunch. So the goat wakes up the next morning and goes to the cupboard and opens it, and the shelf is completely empty of Doritos. And the goat screams, and then goes to the guy's bedroom and opens the door, and all the Doritos are hidden in there, and the guy's painting a sign that says "Goat for sale." And the guy looks terrified as the goat comes in, and the goat just pushes the door shut with its foot. I think that was the funniest commercial of the Super Bowl.
That was a good one. Another one that was good, of course, was the GoDaddy, one of the most talked about ones. Barbara Falley and whatever that guy was that she hooked up with. The noises itself were disturbing. Whew. The one I like that.
Lucky son of a gun, though. I give him that.
Absolutely. Yes. Talk about Beyonce. Let's put her, Barbara Falley, in that same conversation. One of the ones that I remembered, I didn't get to see too many. I was off and on, hosting the party, cleaning up, cooking, watching him wrestle my nephews. That was live, not on pay-per-view. We watched right here. One of the ones I remember, and I'm going to lose my man card here for a quick second, Joey.
M&M's?
The M&M's commercial that came on, and as soon as it came on, I'm the one in the room with all, 10 men.
Guys.
Even a couple women who stared at me. I'm the one who yells, "Hey, that's Santana from Glee." That was me. Man card lost for a second.
And then there was that awkward silence that just happened. We were all looking
Everybody looked at me, yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Hey, for the record, she's smoking hot. I like Santana. She got a phenomenal voice. She's a good-looking girl. And it was a funny commercial on top of it, singing, "I would do anything for love," and the M&M wouldn't do that, wouldn't do this. Very hysterical. If you haven't seen it, check out YouTube. I'll try to get the link for that one, as well as the GOAT one, to put it to the show notes tonight to go along to watch this show, because you'd probably rather watch them than listen to us talk anyways. We had a Super Bowl party. We talked Onside Cook food is a big part of watching sports. We had quite a spread here this past Sunday.
You ain't kidding, we did.
Talk about what your favorite things were, some things that surprised you about the display that we had. What was most delicious?
Well, and I don't even think I'm over exaggerating here. I think I had 6 different choices of cupcakes to eat. I mean, there was food. There was cheese curls, which are always a phenomenal choice. There was wings, pizza bites. A spread I got made fun of because I like picking at the carrots. I enjoy eating carrots, and this guy here to make fun of me for it.
I cut them for presentation only. They're not here to eat. They were for the wing display for presentation only. They're for colors to bring out the wings.
Well, I was eating carrots, and I got made fun of for it. But most impressive to me.
Does this look like either one of us have eaten carrots recently? I mean, come on.
But there were 6 different cupcakes to choose from, and
a cake. And
the cake. And I sampled about half of them, and they were delicious cupcakes. And I actually had one today before we did the show, and I'm surprised I don't have like chocolate all over my sweater here. But I was very impressed by the different types of cupcakes and how good they all were.
Yeah, and we had 2 cakes actually on top of all those cupcakes. We had a Super Bowl cake that was bought by a cousin of mine, and it was my birthday, so my wife bought me a strawberry shortcake, because I'm not a big cake fan, but I will eat strawberry shortcake every day of the week if I have to. Delicious. We had hot dogs in the crock pot. We had sausage and peppers. We had chili here. We had soft pretzels.
Mac and cheese.
Mashed potatoes with cheddar cheese and bacon bits. We had baked beans. We had quite a spread here. I thought we did. If you're going to throw a Super Bowl party, you need to do it right. And I thought Onside Cook really put out this weekend. I really don't say things right, do I? We really put out this weekend. We did a great job, I thought, of the display, and we want to thank all the friends and family for bringing a bunch of food over, for joining us.
I can't answer for you, but I know I put out this weekend.
This was a kid-friendly show, but me and Joey McDaddy kind of get off topic a little bit. Well, I'm going to get to a recipe a little bit later on. Talking hot dogs, we're going to do the Onside Cook dog, as I like to call it, the OC dog. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. Add a little spicy ketchup to that. It's going to be a good day.
Now, I have, we're talking Super Bowl here. We're talking food. And, but we've got something bigger that's going on. That's coming up pretty quickly. I think starting as early as Monday for some teams in either Florida or Arizona. There's a lot of you out there that already know what I'm talking about. But football is come and gone. Loved it. Great game. Great Super Bowl.
We'll see you in August.
But exactly, we'll see you in August, and that's depending on how the season's looking.
Yeah, right.
Starting on Monday is the official beginning of baseball season. So we've got pitchers and catchers. The Phillies are a few days later on Monday, I believe, but there are teams that starting on Monday, pitchers and catchers report. It's baseball season, baby.
Oh, hell yeah. We're very excited about that. We got a lot of great things planned to talk about baseball. We're baseball junkies, so we have some great segments. I'll have it lined up through March, some of the things we're going to be doing regarding baseball. He knows nothing about these things that I prep. He comes in for the show. I give him a really quick, hey, here's what we're talking about, and here he is, right on cue. We put makeup on him, and here he is.
I was told about 3 minutes before we started recording what our roulette topic was because we spun the wheel. I didn't know what was on the wheel, but we spun the wheel to determine this week's Onside Cook roulette topic.
Yep.
So, and I mean, he didn't know either, but at least he knew what was on the board to prepare.
Yep.
So I had about 3 minutes before we started recording to do some quick research and pull up some names. But he'll go over with you as we get on here what exactly that topic will be for this week's episode.
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to push Super Bowl to the side. We're past that. We talked about the party. We talked about football. Like I said, we'll talk about you once again in August, preparing for fantasy leagues, preparing for taking a look team by team, division by division, and what's going to happen for the next season coming up. But it's time for baseball, and we're very excited about that. So the roulette topic. What is Onside Cook roulette? Well, we have a little roulette wheel. We actually do, and we spun it. What we do is I made a list of 36 plus a 0, so 37 topics on the board. And whatever it lands on, we'll pick a topic, and it has to go along with whatever subject comes up, and we'll just fly with it. Well, it actually landed on number 1. Red number 1 was the first thing it hit, surprisingly, and that was fantasy draft. So with baseball season getting ready to happen, it's like, let's throw a little wrinkle in here. Let's do a fantasy draft, and we'll each draft the best pitching rotations we can put together. So we're going to have 5 pitchers each, so it's going to be 10 picks in total. Joey McDaddy himself has a coin out. He gets to pick what she wants to be.
It is a penny.
It's a real coin. Let me see.
It is a penny. It is from 1977. What a year.
Where's Jerome Bettis?
Jerome Bettis. So I'm gonna flip it, and you call it in the
That's
air,
fine.
okay? Because it's your show, so you can have the call in the air, and you get to pick whether you want to go first or second.
Oh,
Okay.
I can defer?
You can defer.
Wow.
Okay. Coin.
Heads.
Heads it is. So, Tim, start us off.
All right, well, I will defer the first pick to Joe McCann's, being I can do it. He gave me the option.
This guy.
Why would I not take the option
This
given?
guy.
And I will take that side because the wind's going that way. Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah, the wind is.
Where's David Akers?
Okay, David Akers. Okay, so I get the first pick. Is this what I'm being told here?
Yes, you get the first overall pick here.
Okay, first overall pick. Well, this in an actual league, because I know now we get to take the best possible people on the board. But if I had to pick and I knew who was going to go, and I'm hoping that you're not going to take the other guy I'm thinking of, because I want both these guys on my team. Two young guys, and the main factor I looked in before I made this decision was playoff performance history. And the two guys it was between, let me tell you guys all that right now, were Clayton Kershaw and Cole Hamels. And as soon as you talk about starting rotations, those are the two guys I thought of because they're young guys. You know, I mean, it's nice to think about the Docs, Cliff Lee, like they're a little older. I mean, they may make an appearance on the list, but I thought about a young guy that I am very confident for my number one starter in his health for the year. So I thought Clayton Kershaw, Cole Hamels, and then you look at Cole Hamels, who has a phenomenal playoff resume already. Obviously, the Championship Series and World Series MVP in 08, had another great postseason in 09, even after having a rough season. So he's always looked good in the playoffs. So with my number one pick for my number one starter for the ace of Team Joey Magdaddy, I'm going with Cole Hamels.
To say I'm shocked would be an understatement, but I picked to defer to ruffle Joey's feathers because he may have had an idea of where I was going to go with this, but he's just going to get thrown off. I'm throwing him into traffic right now because I am taking. I don't know why you would name both your first picks right off the bat, knowing I have a pick right after you. Because Clayton Kershaw is off the board. When you think of starting rotation, in my opinion, I think Clayton Kershaw, right now and in this point in time, yeah, you could say the Justin Verlanders of the world, maybe giving you a heads up on a pick you may need to make soon. When you think of starting rotation, I think that's guy who's going to be the future of pitching in Major League Baseball. I think this guy's already shown he's Cy Young caliber. It's a guy who has dominated in the National League West. It's a guy who we need to see on a bigger platform. We want to see him making those playoff performance like Cole Hamels has. But I think that's going to come in time. I think that they're set up maybe this year. They have the Townsend, Kemp's healthy. You got Greinke in that rotation now to solidify that rotation. I think this is going to bowl. This could be the front man for Cy Young in the National League this year. Cole Hamels will be right there battling with him, absolutely not to take anything away. And like you said, he had great playoff performances. But I think, anybody who's compared to this generation's Sandy Koufax, in my opinion, is the guy that I will take to be the ace my ace of aces, if you will, for my rotation.
Yeah, like you said, it would be nice to see him on that bigger stage in the playoffs. And the Dodgers out there, they're doing everything in their power to make that happen to him. They're putting together a team around him. They made the big deal to Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez,
Hanley Ramirez in there.
Hanley Ramirez. They had Shane Victorino. I mean, they made some moves last year, made some offseason. Got Greinke in there.
So that's happening here
right,
too.
Exactly. So they're making a lot of moves to make this possible. And I definitely think they've got a good chance this year of getting him in those playoffs. And we can see what he can do in the greatest spotlight that he can be in. So, Kershaw, I figured should go off the board second. I know I shared him. I know you've got, some of your people that you believe, Hamels is my number one guy, and I've stood behind him for years. The past 2 seasons, he's been my preseason Cy Young pick, and I'm going for third time's a charm because I don't know if we're going over anything in other shows. You heard it here first. Joey McDaddy is saying Cole Hamels will be the 2013 National League Cy Young winner. Heard it here first. He's my number one starter. Clayton Kershaw, though, will be right up there as well, like you said. Now I'm going to go to a guy who is familiar with the Cy Young, and he's the reigning American League Cy Young winner, and that is David Price. That's the guy I thought you were going to go with. I know you love him. You've loved him for years.
Yep.
We had a conversation about this the other day, not even knowing that this was going to be a topic. We talked about, the main topic we discussed was someone to build a franchise around, starting pitcher wise, and you would mention him. And I definitely agree with you. Any of these three guys you just talked about, the Hamill, the Kershaw, or this David Price, are people that would be great pitchers to start a franchise around. So for my number 2 starter, I'm going with David Price, the Tampa Bay Rays.
Absolutely. That's a guy just won the American League Cy Young. From the American League side, I talk about Kershaw being the National League face of pitching. I think David Price is making his way, making his terms to be that guy. I think he is the future of the pitching in the American League. All-Star, Cy Young winner, another guy you want to see move up to that big platform as well. We saw a little bit of it, but we would like to see him get even farther and maybe get to that World Series platform. Maybe see David Price and Clayton Kershaw go head-to-head in the World Series, even though you and I would rather see Cole Hamels versus David Price in Game 1 of the World Series in Philadelphia. That's what we love to see. Well, with that gone, now I got to change my route a little bit because you threw me under the bus, threw me out into traffic somewhere. I'm going to take a guy who, yes, you've talked about David Price, and he's had that flirt with the American League Cy Young, had it this past season. I'm going to take I can't believe he's here at pick 4, a guy who's won the Cy Young, a guy who's won the MVP award in the same season. Zoolander himself, Justin Verlander, is coming off the board. I mean, the last couple of years, I was really, really low on him his first few seasons because he showed signs of brilliance. And this was a guy who would get halfway through. Gio Gonzalez did the same thing until this season. Get halfway through, get to, August, and just fall apart. Verlander finally got through a tremendous season, looked dominant, and he never looked back. Each season, the last couple of seasons, he's been dominant the entire way through. This past season, kind of a rough sketch in the beginning, got back together. He was still an all-star caliber pitcher. Still a guy who's going to be in that contention for the Cy Young come the end of the year. I have no problem saying Justin Verlander is a number 2 in my rotation.
Yeah, and like you said, Verlander at the beginning showed some great signs. He had that no-hitter in 06, I believe, but just kind of fell off for a little bit. Couldn't keep it. People didn't know what the velocity he had throwing 100 late in games, whether or not that was going to just drag him down over time, whether he would be able to be a successful starting pitcher long-term in Major League Baseball. And obviously he's put all those critics to rest, and he's come out and he has won the Cy Young, the MVP, the Triple Crown for pitching.
Yeah, right.
So it's phenomenal. Number 4, him being there is unbelievable. But we have to make tough decisions in this game, and I've been struggling with. Thinking about my next pick now, knowing that the 2 people I was thinking were they're still there. It's kind of, do I want to go old or do I want to go new? And it's a real tough decision because I've got the Hamels, who's young but proven. I've got David Price, who's young but proven.
Mm-hmm.
Now my next option was someone that's young but
Have you seen
has
the
looked
best
great.
athlete?
Right, exactly.
Look
Great, but I don't know. And another guy who is just another guy that started his career a little slower than people would expect, but then just took off and played extremely well for many years on many different teams. And I'm going to go with Cole Hamels' fellow teammate, Cliff Lee, as my number 3 starter. Cliff Lee is someone who I look at year in, year out as a Cy Young candidate because he's someone that he pounds the strike zone. He throws strikes, but he gets the outs. He's a guy who had 16 strikeouts 2 years ago. This is a guy that knows how to pitch, and he does it extremely well. And he did not get a lot of run support last year, and a lot of people thought he had a down year, when in fact his ERA was under 3.2. He didn't get the run support. He didn't get the wins he deserved. He did have some games where he blew leads that he should not have blown. I can agree with that. But he also had a team that was giving him not nearly enough run support, not nearly the run support he deserved. The leads he gave up, were 2-1 leads, 2-0 leads, giving up that 3 runs. And yet he should still be able to keep that lead. But when you have an ace out there pitching for your team, you got to get them a few more runs than that. Especially when you're facing some of the good teams that were beating him. So Cliff Lee's going to be the number 3 guy in my rotation.
It's very easy to take these flamethrowers. We want these young kids to hold their hand and be a daycare center. But you bring in a mentor like Cliff Lee, a guy who's been there, a guy who has won a Cy Young award, a guy who's now in the National League, who's played in many playoff games, just hasn't got over that hump. He was with Texas and had some issues. He was with Philly and had some issues, didn't get past where he had to be. But bringing him in is a great move for you. And we say an off year last year, a 3.16 ERA. It's a guy, he's still got it. I mean, like you said, there may have been some games where he screwed some things up, but there was definitely not enough run potential from this really off Phillies offense last season. So Cliff Lee is, we'll talk about that at a different show with that note. But Cliff Lee, I like the move. You make my job even harder because Cliff Lee wasn't in my contention because I'm going for the daycare center. I'm going for the young kids to, I keep an eye and have that supervision from some sort of manager. That couldn't be me because I probably would go out drinking with all these guys after the games are over, especially like the night before the big playoff game. I'm taking them out, buying shots. But where do I go from here? Which one do I want to go with? There's two options going through my head right now. I'm going to take the one who doesn't have the injury-plagued career thus far. A guy who I thought, if the season ended the All-Star break in 2012, which it never does for some reason, unless some sort of strike comes up, he was the American League Cy Young winner, in my opinion. I thought R.A. Dickey was your National League guy, and I thought Jared Weaver was your American League Cy Young winner. But he had a no-hitter last season, correct? Sure. This guy who was young, coming up, he had the older brother who kind of Jeff Weaver, he had to come up, are you going to be better than your brother? And I think he's already exceeded that by a good distance, in my opinion. Jared Weaver seems to be a young guy. Seems to be a young guy with a great quota pitches. He's had a great arsenal behind him. He's got a great line behind him. I think this season's going to be a great year for the Angels. You got Pujols, you bring Josh Hamilton in, you got Mike Trout, you got a lot of promise with that team coming up. With the Rangers losing Josh Hamilton, losing some pieces to that puzzle, this may be the year that the Angels break out with those big talents that they brought in, that lot of money spent on these guys. I think this is the year that Jared Weaver also stands out. We talked about the David Prices, we talked about the Cole Hamels, we talked about the Clayton Kershaws. Nobody really talked about Jared Weaver till he threw that no-hitter this year. And I think that he was pitching well enough before that to be all-star worthy. I think he was playing well enough before that to be a Cy Young contender, and I think he hasn't even hit his peak on how good Jared Weaver can be.
And that's really what you talked about, not hitting his peak yet, because I think a big thing why Weaver is not in that discussion is because he does have those great numbers in the first half, but he can't maintain it through the entire season. Like we talked about Justin Verlander, when he couldn't do earlier in his career, and he can now. Cole Hamels struggled with it. 2008 we had a great year, but 2009. He fell off his start. 2010, he started slow. But 2011 and 2012, he maintained it through the entire year. Jared Weaver has not been able to do that yet.
Right.
He's fallen off at the end. But taking him here is a great pick because he's ready to get over that hump. And if it's not this year, I'll be shocked. And I think a lot of people will be. But he is ready to get over that hump. And he does have a great team around him that's going to give him that run support. Because when I talked about Cliff Lee giving up leads because he didn't have run support, it's a lot easier to pitch in Major League Baseball when you have a team scoring runs behind you. You're more confident in the pitches you throw. You're more confident throwing the pitches you're comfortable with instead of throwing situational pitches because you can't risk giving up that single with the man on second to give him one run. You're not completely comfortable, and he's got an offense around him that will give him that wiggle room where he can take those chances because those chances are going to work out a lot of times. There'll be times where they don't, but you need to be comfortable taking them because your team is going to put up a run if it doesn't go the way you plan. So that's a great pick. I do think by the end of the season he will be in that discussion of people up there with that Clayton, that Hamels, those people who can maintain it through an entire season. Surprisingly for me, the guy I was thinking last time I was debating between Cliff Lee and this other guy, he's still on the board, and I think he's the pick I'm going to go with here. It's a difficult decision, especially for me, a Phillies fan, but he's someone who has started his career with an injury and came back last year and was on an innings limit. But right up until...
Jamie Moyer?
Jamie Moyer. I love Jamie Moyer, for the record, but he is not in my rotation. He could be in my bullpen, but he's not in my rotation.
He'd be your pitching coach.
Yeah, pitching coach. But he's someone who had an innings limit of 160 innings this year, and he pitched extremely well all the way up until they had to pull him. I mean, they had to pull the ball out of his hand because he wanted to keep going, and he put up great numbers the entire year. And that's Steven Strasburg of the Washington Nationals. I love what I saw from him. What I really liked as the season went on is he cut down his walks, and he got later in the games. Early in the season, he was getting high pitch counts early, only pitching 5-6 innings in a game. You did see some games later in the year where he was finally cutting back on that, getting through 6-7 innings. So I think that was a big thing in his maturity and, kind of realizing, how to make adjustments to get past, the walks and giving up, little hits here and there. He didn't let runs score, but he, let people on base. So, just getting the guys out. I think it's not about striking. I think he learned it's not about striking everyone out, but getting guys out. So I'm going to go Steven Strasburg as my number 4, and I'm going to hope that he can repeat what he did last year for the entire year up to September, through September. I really do think that he can do that. If there's any one young, unproven pitcher, because I'm still going to say he's unproven, even at this point in time, I think he's the one that will be able to maintain that through the entire year.
Right, I agree he's unproven, and the injury problems kind of, hesitated me, maybe hesitated you when you took Cliff Lee. With him, though, we talked about Verlander, we talked about Jared Weaver being guys, who have shown that they have those talents, and at some points they didn't get it all the way through the season, and they had their peak. Verlander had a peak. We're still waiting on that Weaver full season peak. We saw for a majority of the season, small sample size, but for 6 innings a game, Strasburg was pretty dominant. We saw what he had, even with the injury. We saw he had great stuff, a great arsenal of pitches I just talked about with Weaver. Strasburg definitely has that. Dominant strikeout pitcher, like you said, walks went down, and we saw that he was dominant the entire way until when they shut him down.
And he worked it back.
And he could, yeah. So I think with a full season, the questions are still out on Steven Strasburg. We're going to see what happens in 2013, but hell, we've seen a great portion of what this kid has. As long as he can remain healthy, his arm doesn't fall off, or starts dangling by his side, I think he has the talent, and I think it's a steal here with your 4th pick and Steven Strasburg, to be honest with you.
I absolutely agree. After I made my pick of Cliff Lee, I really did think he was going next. But luckily it worked out, and he's on my team, and I'm glad to have him on Team McCann's. We're going to work him hard, break him in. Cliff Lee's going to welcome to the league, and we're going to have a great season. And he's on my number 4. I still got 1 pick to go.
During the off season, he can help you pave with McCann's Paving Company. Cheap plug here. I think I'll get a steal with my 4th pick as well, though. This is a guy I think if he's in a bigger market, this guy is top 3 or 4 pitcher in the league. This is a guy who proved that wins mean nothing. That led to 7 years and $175 million contract today, the highest contract for a major league pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball. 7 years and $175 million. The guy who won a Cy Young Award with not winning games because he plays with a terrible offense. 12 wins, yeah. 12. I think it's 13 wins.
13 and 12.
13 okay. So 13 wins. Not the most sexy numbers, but it led to King Felix still being graced. He still was presented that big contract because they know the talent that they have there in Seattle. They know what they're getting. They've seen it. This guy has a great ERA. He has a great whip. He strikes batters out. He can go far into games. He's still quite young. What is he, 27, 28 right now? If that?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. King Felix, there's a reason he's got a nickname of King. It's not LeBron here. This guy actually has gotten the job done. Yeah, LeBron haters right now saying, oh, he won the championship last year. He did. Congratulations to LeBron, but, Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade were there, too, for the record. King Felix is doing it with nothing. He had Ichiro Suzuki as his offense, and that was about it. Who else can we name on that Mariners offense that was there during this tenure of King Felix?
John Pickens.
And what was his batting average the last few years?
Not as good as it was on the Angels.
Not even close. It was about 130, 120, 130 in that range.
And I think when you talk about him staying there in a small market team who he doesn't have a great team around him, I think it says a lot about him that he was willing to sign a 7-year deal to stay with the Seattle Mariners. Even Ichiro bailed on the Mariners and went somewhere else. So I think it says a lot about his character to want to do that. But with me, I want starters on my team who can wear their hat the right way and be a little more respectful to the sport, look a little more proper. But that's just a Kirsten, man.
Well, I'm going to take care of that. I can't bring them in here and do that. And they're going to be all clean shaven and everything too. This is the first time I've been clean shaven in a year and a half. But I'm going to say that I'm going to have them all clean shaven wearing the hat.
The man wasn't even clean shaven for his wedding.
My wife told me not to be, for the record. I hope she watches this and comes to the episode. And for the record, we're going to do this. Hold this for a second. It's for you, King Felix. We're good. Give me back. So
you guys can go hang out in the hood together.
Yeah, we're going to, like I said, he's going to come out for shots and everything.
Boys in the hood.
Oh, boy. I'm going to fix that, actually. It looked really awkward. Here, take over. You got your next pick.
Okay, so I get my next pick, and I'm a little thrown off here because, as I said, I would take King Felix for his hat sideways. I would take King Felix, and I actually fully intended on taking King Felix for my next pick. So I'm a little off here, but I'm going to take a guy who actually is another young guy who was overshadowed by someone who now isn't even in this discussion for years, and someone that people thought were the next big thing, the best thing to happen to this franchise, and he fell off the face of this earth, and this next guy just came up.
He was great in the bullpen.
Yeah. This guy came up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's got the highest contract for a right-hander.
Sounds about right. I don't remember what their numbers were.
7,142.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or 6,120. Yeah. A lot of money. Okay. And that's Matt Cain of the San Francisco Giants. I think
another guy never gets enough.
And there's no reason anybody's team he should be number 5 starter like he is on mine. This guy is a number 1 guy. No matter who you are, whatever league you're in, if you've got more than I'm going to say 5 or 6, if you're doing a 10-person league, Matt Cain's the number 1 starter on somebody's team.
Absolutely.
That's the way it should be. Matt Cain is my number 5, and I'm honored to have him on Team McCann's. I really am just excited about my team as a whole. Matt Cain, under the shadow of Tim Lincecum for a few years, but he just kept working, doing his thing. He didn't whine about it. He knew the talent he had. He put up the numbers during that time, but nobody really gave him the credit he was due. And then the Giants finally gave it to him with that big contract last season. And he pitched his way right through the season and ultimately led them to another world championship. So Matt Cain is my number 5. Happy with my team all the way down. I'm going to pass it on to you for your number 5, and then we can talk about a couple guys that didn't make the cut. And depending on who you pick here, there's one name that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about how they don't understand how he couldn't make the top really 10 guys between the two of us.
Right, we'll see about that, because I still have a pick to go. We'll see what discussion we go in here. And I look at the list of other names that we could pick from, some of the other names, think about them. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of guys, we've seen bits and pieces, not like the Jared Weavers or the Strasburgs where we've seen, a good compilation of seeing what their talent can really bring to the table and what they can do and how they can read batters and, how to get batters out. And we've seen small sample size for a lot of these guys, maybe half a season, a game here and there. I'm taking a veteran because I need to do it. And it's not going to fix the King Felix hat situation whatsoever. Because he does the same thing.
Disregard what I said about a big name missing the list.
I knew that was who it was. That's why I said I had one more pick, so let's hold off. I talked about this guy with you a couple days ago, how I thought, he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. How I thought that this was a veteran, I really thought we would go this entire, if you weren't taking Cain there, I was taking Cain. Right after. I didn't think he was making the list either. But with him sitting here, I have these young kids. I need somebody to run the daycare center. They can't do it on their own. And I'm not going to watch them because I got to sober up.
And you think this guy is?
I need a veteran guy. That's true, too, actually. That's it. But we're going to have cake every day. I still have cupcakes left over from the other day. We're going to put them out. But I'm taking CC Sabathia. It's the guy who, was in Cleveland, was a dominant pitcher. He kind of had to move out. King Felix, same situation, one of the best pitchers in the league at the time. Nobody really talked about him. He was sitting, Cleveland. Cleveland wasn't really going anywhere. Ship him out. He goes to Milwaukee. He struggles.
Brett Myers, Shane Victorino. Thank you, CC Sabathia, for the 2008 World Series championship because we couldn't have done it without you.
Exactly. I knew we were going to go there. That's, he can't get over the hump. He's not a good playoff performer. Goes to the Yankees. Wins the World Series, and here we are, CC's still in that conversation of being one of the top pitchers in the league. He's a guy who's a threat for the Cy Young every year, as long as he's staying healthy. He needs to come into camp in shape, and I'm going to make sure that happens. I'm actually taking the cupcakes off the table now. He needs to come in at less weight than I am for my camp, just saying. And it's probably going to be a struggle. It's very close, actually.
Toss up.
He's more muscle than I am, though. I'm just a lot of, beer and pizza and wings. But I love what he brings to the table. It's the guy who I need that veteran.
Wings.
It just got awkward, didn't it? CC Sabathia needs a veteran on my team. This guy's been in the league. I'm okay saying CC Sabathia is my 5th starter with the 4 young guys I have ahead of them. I'm very pleased with where my team has gone. I got Kershaw. I stole Jared Weaver. I got King Felix at the 4 pick. I'm very happy where T. Miller is going.
Now, Team McCann's is taking the series this year. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't think Sabathia was going to go there. But then again, looking at the list of guys, I don't know, I don't want to say the only other name. I thought there was a chance you could have taken Greinke, who was another former Cy Young winner with the new team this year with the Dodgers, who are going to, I think he's going to have a lot of run support, something he hasn't always been blessed with.
The only other name that I was going to take that, and I agree with you there. That was one of the names you could have considered there. The only other name I really thought about between Sabathia, and it was one of those guys who isn't totally a proven commodity. This guy we've seen a small sample size, but it was a year that was good with Yu Darvish. I thought in Texas, This guy's the ace down there. He's going to be a guy who is going to perform well because he has to, because the Angels have gotten that much better. Oakland's a contending team. They have the Astros. No, never mind. But they have Oakland, and they have to deal with the Angels.
I'm sorry, just not to cut you off here. We've got, I believe, let me think here, 5 players. Five or six people, single players in Major League Baseball this season whose salary are more than the entire Astros payroll. You've got 2 Phillies, 2 Tigers, and a Yankee.
Yeah, I was going to say a Yankee.
You've got Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee, 2 Phillies. You've got
Hamilton.
No, not this single season.
Oh, okay.
They're not yet. They've got longer contracts. You've got Miguel Cabrera.
Okay.
And I believe Prince Fielder for Detroit. And then you've got CC Sabathia of the Yankees. Where was it? A-Rod?
Is Teixeira not around there?
No, he's not on there. But they showed a list today. But I mean, you mentioned the Astros. There are single players this season making more money than the entire Astros team, their entire payroll. But I cut you off here. I know we're talking about that. You talked about Yu Darvish. I'm going to stick within that division with another name that I thought could have been on this list. C.J. Wilson. He's one of my guys. I wanted him to come to Philly last year. I think he was going to work well out there as time continues with the Angels organization. They had a rough year last year. They came together towards the end, but they weren't really together as a team yet. With the addition of Pujols, taking Hamilton there now too. You got Mike Trout, who should be the #1 draft pick in anybody's fantasy draft this year. And you talked about already Weaver in the rotation, Pujols, Trumbo, guy I'm big on as well. So I think he's gonna do very well for them this year and put up good numbers. And he's someone that probably, if I had one more pick, if we were going with the 6th guy, C.J. Wilson was probably on my team. So, I'm happy with the 5 I got, but if one of them didn't work out, I would have been very happy filling that spot with C.J. Wilson without having any worries.
And the only other name that I want to mention, who I thought really stepped up, especially at the end of last season, and during the playoff run, really stepped up and made a name for himself. A guy who we've seen great talent from, but it was sporadical. We didn't know what we were going to really see out of him. Madison Bumgarner, the guy who really showcased himself during the playoffs last season, the World Series run with the San Francisco Giants. I think that guy, outside the top 10, I agree that he's not there yet, but I think this guy in the next couple of years, when we do these on a yearly basis, I think Madison Bumgarner in the next few years is going to find himself in there.
And possibly Vogelsong, another Giants star. The Giants are stacked. Yeah. They are. That's why they won 2 of the past 3 World Series. I mean, you talk about what you want about them, how they do this, they do it under the radar, but they've got these quality pitchers that just seem to come out of nowhere and surprise you. They're people you don't hear about all year, and then when, unless you're big sports guys like me and you that follow the sport, get to the playoffs and they're on national TV and people are like, well, who's this guy?
Yeah, right.
Who's Bumgarner? Like it was in 2010. Right. Who's Matt Cain? We know these people because we follow the sport. Right. But these guys just fly under the radar, and just everyday fans that don't really follow it as deep as we do don't know who they are.
Right.
But us knowing them, we do know that they are true up-and-comers, and next year or two could definitely find a way onto this list.
Yeah, I thought this was really intriguing. I'm glad our first onside cook roulette topic. We got to delve into some baseball. We got to do a fantasy trade talking baseball.
And I got to flip a coin.
Heard it here first. This guy's a winner in my book. What are your rotations? Who would you say are the top 5 pitchers in Major League Baseball? If you need to build a rotation, let us know. I can't remember mine already. We just did it. Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander, Jared Weaver. I'm going to take it for that. I stole Felix Hernandez and CC Sabathia. That's Team Miller. Team McCann's
is Cole Hamels, David Price, Steven Strasburg, Matt Kane, and I skipped someone, including the one and only, one of my personal favorites, Cliff Lee, but he's really my number 3.
Well, at least we both forgot one. That works for me. Let us know who you think is your perfect rotation right now at this point in time for baseball. On Twitter at OnsideCook, the forums at OnsideCook.com, and Facebook.com/OnsideCook.
And, it's called Onside Cook, so we'll have a little food conversation here, and it doesn't need to go any further. We're not talking recipes, we're not talking anything. But the food of the week this week is grapefruits, because it is the Grapefruit League down in Florida, and that's what's starting coming up. This is Onside Cook. I'm Joe McCanns.
Tim Miller. We're not done yet. I got to give a quick recipe before we're out.
See,
I'm just going to tell you can check out the
I told
recipe.
you, grapefruits
I
are the
see what he
recipe.
did there, but
Grapefruits are the recipe.
right before the draft, I said the OC dog, a hot dog, a fried hot dog. You can cook it on the grill, wrap it in bacon with toothpicks, fry it, put it in a bun, put some spicy ketchup. I'll put the spicy ketchup. I want to be known from here on out as the man of 1,000 sauces. Can you call me that from here on out?
All I know is that the hot dog thing sounds better than the taste of grapefruit.
Okay, perfect. Spicy ketchup, he's had it. He can let you know how delicious this actually is. It goes great with French fries.
It's phenomenal. I've eaten it every day, probably.
All right, so it'll be the last time you see Joe McCann on Onside
I think
Cook.
I've eaten it every day since Friday, so it is very enjoyable.
Yeah, so we'll give you the recipe. It'll be up there on OnsideCook.com. Check the recipes tab at the top of the page if you want to find out more about the OC dog. Next week, you know what we're going to be talking about on the show? You know what the big deal is next week? NBA All-Star Weekend. Dunk contest, 3-point shootout.
Wait, they still do them?
Yeah, we're going to do it ourselves, actually. We're going to set up a Nerf thing, and we're going to have a dunk contest between me and Joe McCann.
Dunk face! Yeah!
I'm off camera. With that said, after that debacle just happened, he's getting a roughhouse now.
I'm Joe McCanns.
I'm Tim Miller from Onside Cook. Thank you for joining me. OnsideCook.com, on Twitter, twitter.com/OnsideCook, Facebook.com.
Woo! Facebook!
Onside Cook.
I'm on MySpace.
What is that?
MySpace. I mean, it was the thing like 10 years ago. No, I don't even think the website's still up. I just, I was just being a little smart there. My little attitude, I apologize.
I want to give a little shout out to, right before we're getting out here, we exchanged blog addresses last night. We have them on each other's sites. babesdigballs.com. Bunch of great girls, love sports. What are you laughing about? Just the website title in general?
No comment.
babesdigballs.com. It is a sports website.
Okay, what's the website?
babesdigballs.com. It's a sports website. They have great material. They do their own radio show on there. They have information. They do MMA. They do every sport you think of, college football, college basketball. It's up on that website. Check them out. Seem like great people. Have fun. Tim T. Money Miller.
Joe McCanns.
Joe McCanns, as always. We always a great time with the grapefruits. We are out for this week. We'll see you next week right here on Onside Cook.